Hello friends, this video on respiration in plants part 11 is brought to you by examfear.com. No more fear from exam. Let us see what happens in the next step. So with succinate you start in presence of an enzyme, succinate dehydrogenase. The product formed is fumarate or fumaric acid. So you start with succinate, which is a 4-carbon compound, and you form fumate or fumaric acid, fumarate, which is again a 4-carbon compound, and during this process FADH2 is released. Like the way you have NADH, which is nicotinamide adenine dinucleotide. Similarly, you have FADH2, which are again high energy molecules. So one NADH can give rise to 3 ATP molecules and one FADH2 can give rise to 2 ATP molecules. So these are all high energy molecules. So here the product formed is fumarate or fumaric acid, and also FADH2, which in turn will help in ATP synthesis. Step 7, fumarate or fumaric acid is the starting material. Hydration occurs here. Now hydration is the opposite of hydrolysis. In hydrolysis we remove one molecule of water, and in hydration we add one molecule of water. So here we'll add one molecule of water to fumarate, and what happens, let's see. So this is fumarate, which is a 4-carbon compound. So when you add a molecule of water to this, so you add one molecule of water. So this is how fumarate looks like. So this is how fumarate looks like. So the double bond exists between these 2 carbon atoms. But as soon as you add water to this, what happens? This double bond breaks. So this double bond breaks, and what happens? This H2O comes up here as H and OH. So this is what will happen. The double bond is broken now, and water comes as bonds of hydrogen and OH. So these bonds are formed. And what is this? Whatever is formed, that is again a 4-carbon compound, and this is known as malic acid or malate, whatever you call this. So this is your malic acid. So malic acid is formed from fumarate by hydration, and the enzyme which is involved here is fumarase, and the products formed is malic acid or malate. Now the last step of Krebs cycle, where the malic acid is going to be the starting material, and here enzyme malate dehydrogenase acts to convert it into oxaloacetic acid. Now please remember, oxaloacetic acid was the one which combined with the citric acid, which combined with acetyl coenzyme A to form citric acid, right? So here again you are forming the same oxaloacetic acid. So once oxaloacetic acid is formed, it will combine with acetyl coenzyme A and it will again form citric acid. That is why it is said that citric acid is the first product, and also it is the final reactant. That is, the final product which is formed again is also citric acid. So in this step what will happen? This is malic acid. So 4 carbon, this is H, this is H, this is H, and this is OH. So this is malic acid. Now malic acid in presence of malate dehydrogenase, it will form another 4-carbon compound, but with a double bond. So this is oxaloacetic acid, and during this process NADH is also released. So NADH is also formed during this step. So the products formed are oxaloacetic acid and NADH is further utilized for ATP synthesis. Right? So this is all about the Krebs cycle, the multi-step process, where the main motto is to convert the acetyl coenzyme A to a number of compounds. That is, it has to undergo a lot of decarboxylation so that complete oxidation of pyruvate can take place. and side by side so many energy rich molecules are produced. So here if you see, in quite a number of steps we saw that NADH were produced, FADH2 was produced, ATP, GTP were produced. So at a lot of places energy rich molecules were produced. So now that we have understood all the 8 steps separately, it is time to look at the conclusion. So this is how the entire Krebs cycle looks like. Right? We started, the first product which was formed was citric acid. And again, when the entire cycle completes, oxaloacetic is formed, which combines with acetyl coenzyme A to form citric acid again. So that is how it is a cycle, and that is how it keeps on repeating to give its yield. So now let us see what all was formed during this process. Now, if you remember, in the previous step, that is in pyruvate oxidation, 2 molecules of acetyl coenzyme A was formed, right? Because during glycolysis, 1 glucose, okay, let me write it clearly. During glycolysis, 1 glucose gave rise to 2 pyruvic acid or 2 pyruvate. And again, each pyruvate gave rise to 1 acetyl coenzyme A. So 2 pyruvate gave rise to 2 acetyl coenzyme A. Now each acetyl coenzyme A is going through this cycle. So when 2 acetyl coenzyme A will go through the cycle, so everything will get doubled. So let us see what all is produced by 1 acetyl coenzyme A. So if 1 acetyl coenzyme A goes through the Krebs cycle, how many NADH are formed, how many FADH2 are formed, and how many ATP are formed. So let us have a look at that. So if you talk about 1 acetyl coenzyme A, where all NADH is formed, 1, 2, and 3. So there are 3 places where NADH is formed. So 3 molecules of NADH is formed. If you talk about FADH2, it is formed only once. So only 1 molecule of FADH2 was formed. If you talk about ATP, it is also formed only once. This ATP is the step which is referred to as GTP, because GTP, 1 molecule of GTP will form 1 molecule of ATP. So 1 ATP is formed. So this is with 1 acetyl coenzyme A. But actually we have 2 acetyl coenzyme A. So with 2 acetyl coenzyme A, how many NADH will be formed? 6. How many FADH2 will be formed? 2. And how many ATPs will be formed? 2. So this is the energy yield of Krebs cycle. Now many of you might get confused with the numbers, because in many textbooks this NADH is not 6 but it is 8. That is because I'll tell you clearly. During glycolysis, what happened? 2 NADH was produced. But after glycolysis there was another step, pyruvate oxidation. So during pyruvate oxidation again 2 NADH was produced. So till now, if you consider total how many NADH was produced, 2 during glycolysis, 2 during pyruvate oxidation, and 6 during Krebs cycle. So total 10 NADH molecules have been produced till now. Right? So now in the next step, what are we going to see? In the next step, we will actually see how these NADH and FADH2 molecules are utilized for ATP synthesis, because I am telling since long time that these energy rich molecules are important because they will produce ATP. So now we have to see how ATP is produced from NADH and FADH2, because as you see, almost 10 molecules of NADH and 2 molecules of FADH2 are produced till now. So how do we convert all these into ATP? Because if one NADH is going to produce 3 ATP molecules, it is going to be huge energy, right? Because we have almost 10 NADH, so that would be almost 30 ATP molecules. So that's why we need to know how that conversion takes place, and that is why we will talk about the electron transport system. So that is the last step of aerobic respiration, where we will see how exactly the process of ATP synthesis takes place. Thank you. Please visit www.examfear.com to watch more videos, attempt free online test, get free study material, find tutors and mentors. Thank you once again.